afternoon, Audrey. Welcome. And to all the other junior scouts who might be joining us later. We are going to be working on the Junior Art Explorer badge. Now that badge has 5 steps, and under each step you have some different options. So I thought we'd talk about, first of all, what some of your options are. And we'll make some of the projects during the time we have together. We'll probably do 2 or 3, and then I'll ask you, to do certain ones at home. And of course you can pick any others. You don't have to just pick one option. If you get really interested in something, you can do as many as you want. But the first one says, explore outdoor art. Now the way we explore is we look carefully, we listen closely, and we notice movement. Sometimes you can't hear it or see it, but you can kind of sense that something is moving. What does that have to do with art? What kind of art involves movement? Well, dance and music, moving to the music. And that is a kind of art. It's not all pictures hanging on the wall in a museum. So this art badge can be musical performance art, dance performance art, or visual art, the kind of art that you do when you draw or paint or make something. So you look closely, you listen carefully, and then you use your imagination and creativity to make something. Under step 1, I think there's the most delightful suggestion. They ask you to imagine wildlife. And what would be a way you could draw or paint or even make a sculpture out of clay or something with a kind of animal that might need to adapt to the place where he lives. And the example they give you is a bullfrog, especially a bullfrog in the hot South. What could keep him cooler in the summer? They suggest a wide tail, so he could fan himself with this wide tail. And I thought about something else. I was near a lake yesterday hiking, and I saw all these geese flying in. They come in like this, and they swoop down, and they land on the ground, and then they waddled over to the lake. Well, wouldn't it be cool if those geese could just land right on the lake? If their little webbed feet could extend like skis, and they just land right on the lake. They wouldn't have to land on the ground and walk over. So that might be something, and you could probably think of a lot more ideas about how animals could adapt to their environment. So that's one thing under the first step. Just think of wildlife and what kind of adaptation they would use to fit into their environment better. And you don't have to create it. You could draw it. You wouldn't have to make a sculpture out of it. Step 2 talks about something that I'm going to show you that I did yesterday. It says that you can make salt dough, which is flour and other ingredients, and you bake it in the oven. Now, some of you might not want to use the oven. There's another way you could do this, and it's with air dry clay, and you can make your own air dry clay. And I'll give you the recipe for it here. While I'm talking, I'm just hold this up. This is air dry clay, and if you want to copy this down, you can. It's pretty simple. There's just 3 ingredients: baking soda, cornstarch, and water. And you put those in a pot and stir it on top of the stove on a medium-low heat until it gets thicker. And you'll be amazed how it does get really thick. And then you take it off the stove, and once it cools, you knead it. That's K-N-E-A-D, like you knead bread. You work it with your hands till it's not sticky anymore, and you can, form it into shapes with your hands, and it's not all sticking to your hands. Then you take a rolling pin and you roll it out, and a cookie cutter, and you can cut it. And I'm going to show you the ones I did yesterday. I cut them in these shapes, and this little hole behind it, see the hole? I made that with a straw. If you don't have a straw, you can just use like a ballpoint pen and make a little hole. Whatever will make a little round hole. And then your instructions tell you to press something into it, make an impression. This is one of the things I'm going to ask you to do at home for this next week and bring next week to show to us. What I did was I went on a walk and found a lot of interesting things. This is a little frond from a fir tree. Here's some pine needles. Here's some shells. Now, I didn't find those around here. I just collected those the last time I went to the beach. But they're all nature things. The thing you would want to make your impression of is a natural object. here's a little tiny baby pine cone. Let me show you what I did with that. I took this baby pine cone and I pressed it into my clay when the clay was still wet, like that. Whoops, and it just broke. The clay obviously wasn't totally dry. My note to you says let it dry for 36 to 48 hours, and this has only been drying for about 24 hours. So be sure and let it dry real well. Anyway, I will send the instructions out with the note you get on what to bring for next week if you didn't get all this down. Did you get all those, Audrey? Okay, well, good. Another one I made was with this fir tree thing. I pressed that into the clay, and here's how it turned out. I made 2 or 3 of those because I really liked them. Here's another one. And they can be all different colors. See? And there's my little hole in this one. You can't see the hole too well. Okay, let's say you could use shells, pine cones, leaves, whatever. Anyway, be sure and let it dry so it doesn't break like my pine cone one did. Or you can use the one that's in your manual, in your Girl Scout manual. I think maybe some of you might prefer to be stirring on top of the stove than worrying about the oven. But if not, you do whatever one works for you. And that'll be one of the things you do for next week. Make an impression, and that is step number 2, page 5 of your handbook. Okay, the other thing they say, and this is what we're going to talk about today, is find music in nature. Well, if there's no orchestra playing, nobody's playing the piano outside, where would you find music? Can you think of something, Audrey? What would make music outside?
The wind.
The wind, you could hear the wind whooshing through the trees, or you could hear bird songs, or even rain and thunder makes a kind of music. The things I ask you to bring for today to make a rain stick are a long tube, and this is a really long one. It's as long as like a big old sheet of Christmas wrapping paper. It's longer, probably 2 or 3 times as long as a paper towel. And I made my rain stick. You got yours, huh? Good. Well, that'll work. Listen to it. You can make it sound like really hard rain. Or you can keep it going all the time by just barely moving it. Native American tribes use this to make music. And actually in some symphony orchestras, they still use this as a percussion instrument. If there's something in the symphony, the music that sounds like rain or sounds like thunder, they'll use something like the rain stick that you all are going to make. So Audrey, if you got all your equipment together, it tells you first, get a long piece of aluminum foil and start scrunching it together, just like this. It's kind of fun. Get it kind of tight. And it's supposed to be about 1.5 times as long as your thing. And it tells you to wrap it around a broomstick, but the next long tube I have is real skinny. It's only like that, and I don't think a broomstick would work on it. So I got this other little dowel that I don't even remember what I have it for, but I found it up in my closet. And what I'm going to do is leave a little bit of the scrunched up aluminum foil sticking out, and then start wrapping the rest around. If you've got a broomstick, start wrapping it like this. Can you see? Okay, and this takes a while. And if you're wondering why we have this, it's because when you pour the rice and the popcorn, unpopped popcorn and uncooked rice, you pour the rice in the tube, it catches on all these things and it kind of slows it down. Yeah, you're doing it right. See if you can make it go all the way down. Your aluminum foil probably isn't going to go all the way. You might need to get a little bit more. Make sure it goes the whole length of your stick there. Okay, now leave a little bit of a bit at the top and see I got the whole thing wrapped. Now I'm going to slide it out, slide my dowel out, and I'm going to try to insert it in this. This is so skinny. The first one I showed you that I finished making was it was fatter, but this one's real skinny. So I'm hoping this, oh, it's going, it's working. And you just push it in. All right, you with me? You pushing yours in?
Yes.
That last little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna have to work on that. You may need to poke something down in there and help it get through. But let's say you got it all the way to the end. Then you need to take some masking tape and tape over the hole. Because you're gonna have all this, you're gonna have a cup of, a cup of popcorn and a half a cup of rice. I can't remember which one is which, but your handbook tells you how much to put. You pour regular popcorn like this in a jar, not microwave popcorn. That won't work. You pour the popcorn and the uncooked rice in here after you've taped up your end. And then you tape up the top end, push this all the way down or either cut it off. Tape up the top end. So both ends are closed and you have the aluminum foil going around, the rice and the popcorn in there, both ends taped. And then all you have to do is decorate it. I didn't decorate mine because I hadn't figured out what I want to do with it. Since this started with Native Americans, you might want to put Native American kind of things on here, or maybe just thunder and lightning and rain and clouds as a decoration. Primitive people use these in two ways, not only to make music, but also if they had a drought and it hadn't been raining for a while, they would shake this rain stick to ask the rain gods to send more rain to water their crops. So it has a use even today as a musical instrument, but in ancient times, people would summon the heavens to open up and send more rain. So you decorate it however you want and bring that next week and show us what you've done. And if you don't have something as long as this is probably 3 feet long. I had a big roll of wrapping paper that I just took off. Maybe it won't get too wrinkled by next Christmas. Love that thing. But you could use a paper towel roll. It won't the sound won't go as long because the rice and the popcorn doesn't have as far to travel through there. But either way will work, and I'll be interested in seeing how you decorate yours. Yeah, you got all your ingredients ready, don't you? Is that the rice?
Yes.
Okay, now she's pouring the popcorn in. Okay. You got tape on one end, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now just tape up the top when you got everything in there and you're set. And all you have to do is put some craft paper on it or paint it or use magic markers or whatever you want to use and decorate it. So we'll compare our decorated versions next week, and I'll decorate mine too. One of the other parts, you go on and work on yours while I'm talking. One of the other parts of your handbook lets you know that you can be a nature photographer, because that's what artists do. And one of the things that I thought was really neat, and you could kind of fool people with this, it says under the number 3, under that one, the number 3 suggestion, it says go big and small. Take a photograph of something like, let's say, a flower from far away. So you get the whole flower with all the stalk and all the leaves, but then move closer, 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 and get closer and closer so that your last photograph, maybe you take 4, 5, 6 photographs, your last photograph is zooming in and it won't even really look like a flower anymore. You may have the very middle of the flower, the stamen, the little things that come out. You may have something that doesn't even look like a flower. And if you show that to a friend and say, what do you think my picture is? They may not even know. And it shows you how you can zoom in, zoom out, and change the whole view of what it is you're photographing. And it teaches you to look closely too, because sometimes the things that aren't so obvious are small, but when you focus on them, they're really fascinating. So that might be one you would want to do. The very last one looks really interesting to me. It says design a birdhouse or house for owls or regular birds. And the picture they show you in your handbook is a 4-story lighthouse with a light on top, made out of wood, and you paint the light. I thought that was so cool. So the birds have 4 levels to go to. And I was trying to think, what other kind of things other than just a regular V-shaped roof and a little house could you do? You could maybe make a rounded house. Maybe you could, I don't even know how you would do that, but I'm sure you all can use your imagination and come up with something. And they say, if you want to make it, that's wonderful. But if you don't have the tools to do that, then just draw it and let your imagination go wild and think, what would the birds like? You know, one thing I was thinking, an airplane. Birds are up in the air, planes fly in the air. You could make the little opening to the plane be where the birds sit, and the wings could be where the other birds perch and wait to go in to get their bird feed. That might be kind of fun too. And you could probably make a pretty simple airplane with 2 wings and a long middle section for the fuselage, and then a little door that opened, and that's where the seeds were that they ate. So use your imagination on that one too, and see if you can come up with something just really wonderful. You got yours all taped up and ready?
Yeah.
All right, turn it and let's hear the sound it makes. Sounds really cool, doesn't it?
Yes.
And if you were in a rock band or a symphony orchestra, you could shake it wildly and really have fun with it and keep the beat. So you could use that for a lot of things. It does make the sound of rain, but it could be the sound of, you know, just keeping beat to the music. You could even make up a dance to go along with it. One thing too, step 2, I want you all to be really careful and consult your parents before you think about doing this one. It says make a tie-dyed shirt. And what they suggest, instead of using paint that you scrunch up your shirt with, use bleach. Now that, I might get a little nervous if my child were using bleach all by herself. You would have to wear old clothes and be outside. So I was going to give y'all another way to do that. If your mamas get a little nervous about giving you a bottle of bleach and saying, oh yeah, go bleach this shirt. If you want to follow that and you have adult supervision, that's great. And the instructions for that are on page, let's see. So that's probably about page 4 or 5, and they tell you how to do that. But there's something else you can do. If you buy fabric or you have fabric paint, and I just happen to have a good bit of fabric paint, so that's what I'm going to do when I make mine this week. I'm going to get an old black t-shirt, or it could be navy blue, but some dark color, and make a galaxy shirt. I'm going to dip my fabric paint into, dip a sponge into my fabric paint, and I'm going to sponge on the shirt. And then I'm going to spray it with water, and it'll kind of disperse a little bit, get a little blurry. And if you could take a pencil or something and go through it with and make a spiral galaxy shape, then it would look like a whitish blur that's shaped like a galaxy. You know, a galaxy looks like this. It's a spiral like that. So if you could draw through your white paint with that and kind of etch out the shape of a galaxy. And then the other thing you bring, and I'm going to write all this down and give it to Jennifer so she can send you all this equipment you need for next week and how to do this project. Take a toothbrush. Have any of you ever dipped a toothbrush in paint and then just flicked it like this?
Yes.
And it just, what does it make?
It makes like tiny little white
Stars.
Right. Tiny little white dots, which could be stars. So your galaxy shirt could be a blurry white galaxy, and then we'll flick it with a toothbrush that has been dipped in white paint. I think that might be a little safer and a little bit more agreeable to your mamas rather than using bleach. But if you have adult supervision and you want to use bleach, then you follow the instructions on page 4 and 5 and you can do the bleach t-shirt. So for next time, we're going to bring a black or navy blue or a dark color shirt, old t-shirt, fabric paint, and a toothbrush. Now, if you've already done it with bleach, you won't need to do that. But you just choose your choice on that, whichever one you like. And I think black would look really good because it would look like the night sky. But if you don't have a really dark color, I think any old t-shirt would work. Any questions? No? Okay. Now, we've talked about basically pretty much all of the requirements under this badge for each one, and the fact that you're supposed to do one, but if you get really interested, you can do as many as you want. And so I thought the one that might be the hardest really is indoor and outdoor performance. It says to act out a skit, sing a song, or play a musical instrument in the house. Then go outside and do the same thing outside, but notice what's different. Well, that might be kind of hard because it's pretty quiet outside. And if you went out on a stormy afternoon with gray clouds, like it's just about to rain, and the wind was blowing, it might be different. But for right now, we pretty much have still skies, and it's not going to rain for the next week, and it's going to be blue sky. But the thing that might be different is there might be a lot of birds. We won't hear much traffic because people aren't on the road, but you might hear birds or squirrels scampering along. So you could try that one. But I thought that a galaxy shirt might be more interesting for you all. So for next week, I will make a list and it'll be available to you through Jennifer of what we need to bring, but we're gonna make these little impressions on either clay or a salt dough. And you're going to decorate your tubes for the rain stick. And if anybody has any questions, let me know. I'll write out all the equipment for next week, and then I want you to bring them and we'll see who's done the best job they could possibly do, and we'll be amazed. We will be amazed because that's the best thing about doing an art badge. There's never a wrong answer. If you did a math badge, we wouldn't all get the right answer, but on an art badge, everybody's is going to be wonderful because we're all different and we all have a different way of looking at the world. So have a great week. I have enjoyed being with you, and see you next time, I hope.